Hello everyone, welcome to the latest in our series of online business training webinars. Before we get started, we just need to do a quick screen and sound check. So if you can see the screen, if you can hear me, please type a yes into your chat box. Great stuff, thanks very much everyone. Quick introduction, my name is Ian Beaumont. I'm Business Development Manager for names.co.uk and Registered 365. Today's webinar is about how you can improve your business in 45 minutes, which will be presented by Doug Lawrence, who is Export Communications Consultant for UK Trade and Investment. With regards to questions for the webinar, please feel free to ask away during the webinar. If we've got time, we'll answer a few of them at the end. But if we don't get to it or if we run out of time, we'll come back to you personally after we finish. So, Doug, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you, everybody, for joining us during your lunch hour. If I give you a quick overview of what we're trying to cover today, that standard question, how do I get to number one in the Google rankings? And then we'll look at some of the more background information, like what's the purpose of your website, which are the main Google tools you should use to improve your website, how you set these tools up, how you monitor the information from these tools, some tips on using them, and then we'll look at some of the international aspects that we would cover within UK Trade and Invest. We'll also look at some of the international search engines as well. How do you get to be number one on Google? Be very, very specific. So if you want to rank and you're selling a purple dinosaur stool, the chances are you probably will rank quite highly. You could even beat Amazon. If you've got a dino sun puzzle stool that's in purple, great. If you're selling something that's not as specific, if you're selling something more generic, if you want to rank for something more generic, then that's more difficult. And that's where these Google tools will help you a lot to improve the quality of your website content and some of the tools you use to measure and monitor what people do when they're on your website. For example, if I want to rank my name, Doug Lawrence, the challenges are that there's a guy called Doug Lawrence in SpongeBob SquarePants. That's quite difficult to compete with. But if I compete on Doug Lawrence translation, so I use the word translation sometimes when I mention my name on websites and online profiles, then I've got more of a chance of ranking highly. So Doug Lawrence brings up SpongeBob SquarePants, but Doug Lawrence translation brings me up. But going back to that, there's nothing wrong with being number one, that's great, but if you're looking at a web strategy overall, it's a good place to start and think, what is the purpose of my website? This is a slide I've taken from Google, and they give you 5 things they think you can do. One is e-commerce, simply selling something online, whether that's T-shirts or wedding pictures or whatever else it is. The purpose of the website is to sell things. Then you might have lead generation. You might be selling services or other products that you need people to contact you, and then you contact them. You might want to publish content and then sell advertising. You might want to support existing clients, or you may wish to build a brand. Understanding what it is you're trying to achieve will enable you to use the Google tools to set up things like goals, which will enable you to monitor and control what's happening on your website, to feed that information back in and make your web presence more successful. The 3 main tools you'll use are Google AdWords. Most people have heard of that, where you can advertise. And when we work with companies in UK Trade and Invest, we often come across companies that have figured out a sweet spot, where they know the amount these adverts cost, they know the amount they need to sell, and they know which profit they can make on that. What we also recommend is you start looking at your analytics. So this is a free service from Google that allows you to measure the people who are coming to your website, where they're coming from, what they do, which pages they enjoy, which ones they don't, and to produce reports that are customized for your particular needs. Google Analytics is a great tool, and you can link it with AdWords. Don't forget Google Webmaster Tools. That's a very important tool. These 3 can all link together. What Webmaster Tools allows you to do is to submit your sitemap to Google, to submit your site to Google, to prove ownership of your site, and to link back to the other tools. When you create a Google account, Google gives you a lot more other things you can do with Google. It's a little bit like a Sunday newspaper where you get the sports section and fashion and TV and politics and all the rest of it. You may only want the sports section at the moment, but what Google's doing is giving you access to all the rest of these things. I'd like to stress it's important. If you have an analytics account and an AdWords account and a Webmaster account and a YouTube account, it's a good idea, and a Gmail account, it's a good idea to link these all together, ideally set them up with the same account. It makes things a lot easier in the long term to manage. In the short term, it can be a little bit more confusing, but it is worth making sure they're all linked to the same account. We're going to go through a lot of slides. I'm going to go through a lot of content, and you might think, where do you draw the line? How much do you need to do? If you're in business, you need to do 10% more than your competition. You can't get it perfect. You can spend a lot of time and a lot of money on AdWords and analytics, on Google, on Bing, on all sorts of good online tools. But just think about, if you're in business, what are your competitors doing and what do you need to do that's better than them? Doing something is better than doing nothing. Going to these tools and thinking they're confusing and then not using them is not the right way to approach it. So what we'll do is look at how you can use it in a very measured and controlled way to begin with, and then learn more about the tools as you learn and as your website grows and as your visitors numbers grow. We're going to start looking at analytics, which, as this screenshot shows, is an enterprise class web analytics tool. That just means it's big and confusing sometimes. There's a lot of help online that will help you use it. And what I want to do is to go through the process of how you might use analytics. You might not want to set an account up straight away, and one way you can get around that is you can set up, or you can join the Google Analytics Academy, which is a place online where you can practice these things and where you can go through particular lessons that tell you how to use Google Analytics. There's usually a video, a couple of multiple choice questions. The whole thing takes 6 hours, but you can use first sections of it. You don't have to do the entire thing. It's a great place to learn how to use analytics, and you don't have to log in with your website and your email. You can use it as a test. It's a great place to start learning analytics. Before I go on to the live demonstration of analytics, we spent some time thinking about, if you're a brand new user to Google Analytics, how would you go about creating an account? So the short answer is, you log in or you create an account, you choose whether you want to monitor a website or an app, and then you insert a tracking code if you've chosen a website. If you're using SiteMaker from Names, then there's a great video online, this is the link to it, that shows you how you can set up your link to Google Analytics in your SiteMaker website. So that's the short answer. I wasn't very convinced by that, so we spent some time to go through the process, and I'm going to show you screenshots now. I know live demos are more interesting, but the screenshots are there because I went through this process, and I want you to be able to follow those screenshots and to have reference to them afterwards. So you start off by looking for Google Analytics. You can follow that link. When you click on Access Google Analytics here, it'll say, do you want to sign in with an existing account or sign up for the new, create a new account? So in this instance, I already have a Google account, but I wanted to create a new account. When you create a new account, you'll be asked all those standard things like date of birth, telephone number, create a password, what your current email address is, and some kind of capture or verification code. Once you've verified your email address, you'll be welcomed into Google. Confusingly, you're welcomed into that Google account. I'm not going straight to analytics, even though I started off trying to apply for analytics. So Google set me up as a Google account. So I go back to Google Analytics, and here's another tip. If you're logged into Google and you think, well, where's analytics, or where's Webmaster Tools, or where's AdWords, I often open up a second tab and then search for them in Google itself. There are lots of links to these things buried in all sorts of ways, but that's just generally an easy way of doing it. So here we are. We've created a Google account. We're now going to create a Google Analytics account, and Google's warning us what we're going to do. We're going to sign up for Analytics. We're going to add the tracking code, and then we're going to monitor the information from Google Analytics. Okay, so I'm signing up again. And then I get a window that appears that says, okay, Doug, do you want to choose to measure your or monitor using the Universal Analytics code or the Classic Analytics code? Use the Universal Analytics code. That's the new code, and it allows you to link more easily to Google Webmaster Tools. It's got other information and other pieces of content that are useful as well. So that's the new modern one, and that's the one I'd recommend using. You can set up the account. This is at the bottom half of that screen, and you could type in the name of the account you want, then the website name, then the URL of that website, and which time zone you're in. Google Terms and Conditions, which I'm sure you'll read every single word of and understand. And then I'm into the account itself. And you can see there I've got a tracking ID, which is the UA for Universal Analytics, then the number, and I've also got below a chunk of code. Now you can copy and paste that code into your website, every single page. One of the disadvantages of analytics might be that if you miss a page, that page isn't measured. So often there's a way of inserting that so that it goes onto every single page. I'm using, or when I set this up, I used something called WordPress. I used a thing called a plugin, and that plugin allowed me to take the code and put it into one place, and it'll replicate it across all the pages. You will have a different way of doing that depending on which process you're using, on which web development tool you're using. And you may just give it to your web developer, and they can insert the code. They'll understand how to do that. So once I've added the tracking code, I want to make sure it's there. So I would just go visit the website, and then I would do a right-click, view source, and search for that code, and I can see it's been inserted correctly. So now what I've done is I've created a Google account, I've created an analytics account, I've inserted the code, and I've checked the code is on the website. Next, going back to the property settings, I can scroll down to the bottom of that, and then there's an option there called Webmaster Tools settings. Here I can link Google Webmaster Tools to Google Analytics. When I do that, I'm asked yet again to type in my password. Once I'm in there, I can click on Add a Site, and it's going to warn me that I need to refresh, and then I can type in the website password, the website address. Here I forgot to add the .com, so when I clicked OK, Google said, would you like to add a site? Because it wasn't a site. So you probably wouldn't see this page, but I did. Type in the site name, click Continue, and Google's going to say, you need to verify ownership of that website. And you can see here, you must be using the asynchronous tracking mode. That's for their recommended Google Analytics link. So we are using the asynchronous tracking code because that's the universal one we spoke about earlier. So I can click OK, and it says, congratulations, you successfully verified ownership. So just to recap, we set up a Google account, we set up an analytics account, we took the code from the analytics, we put it in our website, we then went to the account settings and we linked our Google Analytics and our Google Webmaster Tools together. Webmaster Tools is important because it proves ownership, and later on you can link it to things like Google Plus pages. You can also, when you're in Google Webmaster Tools, you can add or remove users, you can look at the analytics property, you can delete the site from a list of sites, you can check on the site health, have you got viruses in your website, are there errors on crawling where Google can't see certain pages. Here I just clicked on the name, Doug's Test Website, and that brings me up with the dashboard for that particular property. And I can see this is a new website I created for this, so there is no data. I can see I can submit a sitemap, so if I click on sitemaps, I get the option to add the sitemap. I'm using a tool which generates a sitemap called sitemap.xml, so I type that in and click Submit Sitemap. It's submitted to Google, and Google will say, you need to refresh the screen. And when you refresh it, it'll say, there you are, we've got the sitemap, it was submitted yesterday, and it's pending submission. So we submitted a sitemap. What you'll find if you've got a very large website is sometimes you'll find things in your website that you don't remember or you've forgotten. Maybe there's a link from another page and that page is deleted, or vice versa. Sitemaps are great for Google checking your site against your sitemap. You can also, if you click on the gear symbol, the round gear symbol there, and select on the drop-down list site settings, you can see that you can select which country a website is for. You can only do that if your website is a .com, a .net, a .biz, so a non-geographic domain. A .co.uk is considered to be targeted for the UK, a .ie for Ireland. It doesn't mean it will not be returned in other searches, it just means that Google tends to have a preference for that. So that's a useful thing you can do with Google Webmaster Tools. You can tell Google, this website or this part of my website is for this particular region. That's not something you can do in analytics. With analytics you can see where people are coming from, but here you can give a preference. And what you can also do is you can display whether you want display URLs to include the www or not. So at the end of the step-by-step guide, so what I'd like to do is to take you to a real-life demo of analytics. So I've got some websites I set up previously, so we've got a bit more data. This is the home page, and you can see I've got a lot of properties here I can select, all different websites. I'm going to move the cursor across the top. You can see home. This is the home screen, the reporting screen, customization, and admin. So those are the four main things you can choose across the top of the screen. If I go into all website data for this, well, let's go for this one, douglawrence.com, we're into the reporting. So we clicked on that and we're into the reporting screen, so you can see we're underlined reporting. The audience overview is the default report, and that gives you that nice trend analysis. It's often interesting. I mean, 10 visits today is nothing special, but it's interesting to see that there were none on February the 8th. So this is a trend. It shows you why do I get more visitors sometimes and not others. So you can start thinking about that content and those trends. Scroll down, 92 visits, 72 unique visitors. We can see the language they've used in their computer. A very basic report. So again, we've got the same menu across the top. We've got a context menu here across the left-hand side where we can choose other options, but we've got the main report here. You've also got, usefully, the little mortar hat symbol there. If we click on that, we get context-sensitive help with a video and with lots of other information. It's brilliant. Use it. What I would say about that is it's very confusing analytics. There is a lot to it, and these snippets of context-sensitive help help a lot. Also, what you can do with this report is you can think, okay, this is a useful report. I don't want to log into analytics every day. I'm going to send an email to somebody that enables us to share this report with other people every week, for example. So click on the email button, type in a mail address that you want to send the email to, and I'm going to send it to myself. You can change the subject line if you want. You can change the format, so I choose PDF. And you can then say Google Report. Choose the day of the week, choose the frequency. So if I put Tuesday, you can put as many people as you want in that to box. So if you've got a few people that need to know how many people are visiting the website, but you don't want to give them an analytics login, you could do that. Or if you yourself don't want to go into analytics every day, this is a good way of doing it. So this report will be emailed to you as you request as a PDF or comma-separated values every week when you suggest. So that's the audience report. There are many other reports here within Google you can look at. You can look at acquisition, you can look at visitor flow. Visitor flow is a nice report that shows us where people came from, which pages they went to, what the drop-off was. So I know I need to improve a certain page if I get a lot of drop-offs from that. Some other interesting reports down at the bottom are conversions. So some people say that traffic is vanity, conversions are reality. And what you're trying to do with a conversion is, I've got a website, what am I trying to do with that website? I'm trying to get people to sign up to a mailing list. So a conversion is a person visits, they sign up for the mailing list. It's a goal, so you've converted that customer from being a visitor maybe to being a subscriber or a customer. So these are conversions. Conversions are very important. You can set up goals within conversions, and you can see you've got an overview there of the report, and you can see which URLs. So confusingly, remember we're looking at a report here. And you might say to me, well, okay, Doug, how do I set up a new goal? We set up a new goal in admin, and you need to go to goals. So that was the admin screen, and then into goals. And you can see I'm in Doug Lawrence, the property. And when I click there, I can click new goal. And there's templates ready for you. So let's say this is an acquisition goal, and we're saying somebody signed up for an account, or they signed up for a newsletter maybe. So you can create custom goals as well if you wish, but I tend to use these standard ones. The next step, we can set what type is it. Well, we're going to have destination. So it's create an account, or we're going to say become a subscriber. Destination goal, so it's going to be a thank you page, for example. And you can see here, we've set up the goal, we've given it a description, we're now putting in the details, and the details are the location. So it's going to put douglawrence.com / thank you hyphen. It's not case sensitive. We can put an optional value on there if we wish, so we might say it's 50 euros. Think about if you went to an exhibition or conference, you have to pay to go to that, and you got people that visited your stand. You'd have to divide the number of visitors and by the cost of the stand to know what value it is. You can put a goal on your subscribers, or on the purchases you can link to e-commerce. It's not necessary, you don't have to have it. You can put a funnel on there as well to see which pages they go through. So goals are very useful, and if I just click create this goal, the goal is created. and we've got 17 goals left we can use. So just to recap, we set up a Webmaster Tools account that was linked to our Analytics account and to our overall Google account. We went into Google Webmaster Tools, we verified our website to create ownership or to verify ownership. We then added a sitemap. We then went back to our friends in Analytics, and in Analytics we looked at the reports, we looked at setting goals, and we looked at sending an email report to people weekly. So I've got a few more screenshots that we use within there. There's the tracking code, there's the set up the email report, and creating goals. There are different types of goals. I'd recommend using URL destination first. So with Analytics, Google Analytics, my top tips are don't panic. It's worse than it looks, or maybe it's not as bad as it looks. Set up the email report. So if you don't fancy going to Google Analytics, you can at least look at the report every so often. Use the built-in help. Don't forget to set up goals based on the objectives of your website. If your objective is to build brand, maybe it's that people download a PDF. If your objective is to sell T-shirts, then they sell a T-shirt, they become a goal that's been reached when they buy a T-shirt. We've got links later in this webinar as well that you can use, and this is going to be available for you to look at later so you can see those links as well. And don't forget that this is one account that you're creating with Google, so you try and link all this content together. With Webmaster Tools we talked about, we can do things like we can monitor the health of a website, whether there's broken links, whether you've been infected on a website. If you've got bad backlinks, for example, then you can go through Google Webmaster Tools and you can use the disavow tool to remove backlinks that are not good to your website. You may be working with developers, with people who are handling your SEO. They will want to insert their own tracking codes. They'll want to control some of this themselves. That's because they use a lot of filters. They use their own reports, etc. So there's no harm in letting them have that. I often recommend you having your own account as well, because if you fall out with them or if you want the information yourself, you've got that. But certainly in most cases, web developers and SEO people will have tools they use, and they'll want to insert their tracking codes sometimes. Don't forget Google Plus pages. These are becoming increasingly important. They allow you to link back to your Google Webmaster Tools account, to your Analytics account, to your Google Plus profile. And the advantage is that you can claim a custom name. So you could claim the name of your company with your Google Plus page, and you can link it back to other online profiles such as Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. So it's got good SEO capability. You can create a page, and there are 5 different choices, whether it's a product, a band, a local company, or an institution, a company. You can create as many pages as you want. I think I have about 16. They're free of charge. You can create them in English. Here's English and Russian. You can create them in Arabic, any languages you want. And you can link them back to your particular web page or website. Quick refresher on search. Don't forget there is a YouTube channel called Google Webmaster Tools Videos. It's very, very extensive. I think the last time I looked, there was something like 670 videos from Google, all free of charge, giving you more advice about how you can use Google better. Matt Cutts is a Google employee that's allowed to say certain things, and there's a good video, only 3 minutes 15 long, which is a basic introduction to how search works. That's a great video if you're new to search. I've talked a lot about Google. There's Bing. Bing by Microsoft. That's used within Facebook, and there's rumors that it's used more within iOS now. On Apple devices, for example. If you're looking at Russian-speaking markets, then Yandex, yet another index, is the search engine of choice within Russian-speaking markets. Baidu for mainland China. Yandex has an English interface. Baidu doesn't. Bing has an English interface as well, in case you're interested. Nava is used in South Korea, and Seznam is used in the Czech Republic. If you look at the 4 main ones, they've all got Webmaster Tools, they've all got Analytics, they've all got pay-per-click, and these are some of the links to those. There are AdWords and ads that you can use, Yandex Direct, for example, and those are links to those if you want to start using AdWords in those countries. in those search engines. Sorry. Don't forget, if you do start using AdWords, you can geographically target certain areas. So here I'm using AdWords to say, please select these German-speaking countries, and obviously in Switzerland there are other languages as well. In Yandex you can geo-target based on a region, because Russia's a big place. Within UK Trade and Invest, we deliver a service called the Export Communications Review, where we look at people's online web presence, and we'll often say by saying, if you have a domestic presence that you're happy with, if you're selling to your Irish or UK clients, and you know you can monitor the traffic, you've got your AdWords working, you've got search engine optimization working, and you want to go international, maybe the first step is just adding a simple page in English called International, maybe a tab on the main navigation, and that talks about how you're prepared to trade internationally. Will you deliver training courses worldwide? Will you ship things based on a particular shipping rate, or whatever your offering is and whatever you're prepared to do with the rest of the world in English? There are plenty of countries in the world that do speak English, and there are some countries where people speak enough English to deal with you. So be happy with your domestic site, then move towards an international English site or page, a couple of pages maybe. And then think about if there's particular markets that you might want to put some translated content in. We often suggest that you add that translated content because it's easier for people to find you in their own language. You can leave the rest of the website in English and just say to them, we don't speak Arabic, we don't speak French. Even on your inquiry form, you could warn them that they should send an inquiry in English, because there are a number of people that will maybe search in their own language first and then use English when they come to your website. So you can add those pages in different languages, and you can then use Google Webmaster Tools to say, this part of my website is for the UK, this part is for Ireland, this part is for the USA, this part is for Germany. Later on, you may decide you want to add a whole website in French or a whole website in German. You do that by using domain names such as .fr for France or .de for Germany. You can use .com, but if you want your company or your brand .de, now might be the time to think about it, because if 2 or 3 years down the line you're thinking our company will have a German website, if you talk to Names first and reserve that website, buy that domain name for you now, then it prevents somebody else buying it in the meantime, and you having to scramble or pay them a higher rate to get it. So sometimes, even if you don't need a domain name now, it's a good idea to get it in advance, because it costs a lot less to buy it off the shelf than it would off somebody else, especially if you start to become more international and people see you more across the globe. So the basic principle is there are people who will buy from you in English, people who will contact you in English because they're native speakers or because they've got very good English. There are some people that speak English plus another language, and they have a mix of capabilities. So having some German will attract them to your website, and then they'll be prepared to deal with you in English. There are some people that only speak their own language, and that's much further down the line in terms of you presenting a web presence that they can use effectively. So what we're trying to do is increase the number of potential buyers by moving along the spectrum and adding more languages and more language content to the website. So we've got a place where we can send you for more help if you wish. I've mentioned this before, the Google Webmaster Tools videos. They're not all in Japanese, I hasten to add. You can see there's Matt Cutts again. He's talking about what's it like to fight web spam at Google. Should I build links using article directories, all these sort of things. There's lots of content there that you can use, and I often go there to watch the video rather than to read the help. Matt Cutts himself has a blog. Here he's talked very recently about don't use guest blogging for SEO purposes. That's a definitive statement by Matt Cutts, so you know that when he's saying that, you can take that advice. Still use guest blogging, but you don't use it for SEO, certainly as far as Google are concerned. This is a video I mentioned earlier, 3.5 minutes long, which is about the basics of search. The fact that Google, for example, uses around 200 measures per page to rank it. The fact that Google doesn't store your page, it stores a copy of your page. Going back to that 200 measures, people say, how do I rank as number one? Well, the answer is, I guess, you go to those 200 measures and you perfect each one of those. Unfortunately, there isn't a website that says the Google 200 measures. You can know there's things like if you've got 300 words of content, if you've got backlinks, if you've got good links out, if you've got images. All these things are up for discussion, but this is a good video that gives you an introduction to that. Don't forget the Analytics Academy, which is great for learning how to use analytics, and you don't have to complete it. Even just doing the first couple of sessions and couple of lessons will help you tremendously. And then we have the strategy itself. So going back to the beginning of this presentation when I showed the Google slide that said, what's the purpose of your website? This 15-minute video takes that subject a lot further. It's an excellent video. I'd split it into 3 parts, the beginning 5 minutes, the middle 5 minutes, and the last 5 minutes. The beginning is great, and then I think you'd move towards the next 5 minutes. So you might find you have to watch this video a few times, but it's a great way of understanding what it is you're trying to achieve and how you can work with Google tools and with any other tools to improve your search engine optimization. Here are some contact details, and I'm going to pass back over to Ian now to take any questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Doug. I'll let you get a drink of water. We've had a few questions in from the chat. I think a couple of these have been kind of covered in part, but we might be able to have another look or a deeper look. I think the first question we've got here, Matthew's asked this, do I have to consider any costs with this kind of stuff?
No, you don't, Matthew, is the short answer. The longer answer would be, it depends. So if you're using AdWords, for example, then I would recommend setting a daily limit on AdWords because it can quite easily get out of control. When we're talking about analytics, unless you are a large company, you could just use the free version. There are some limits like it keeps data for 2.5 years, those sort of things. And Google Webmaster Tools is free of charge, Bing Webmaster Tools is free of charge, Yandex is as well, and Baidu.
Okay, great. We've got another one here. I think a few people have asked this one, but Lisa's asked, how do I find out where my visitors are coming from? I think you touched on this, but we can have another look.
Yes, thank you for that, Lisa. So if we go back to the reporting screen for a moment, and we don't want to be on the conversions, we want to be on the audience. So in the audience overview, remember when I said there was this menu across the top, menu down the side, so I've navigated back to the audience overview. If we scroll down, we can see we've got ENUS as a language, and we can see across there we've got country and territory. So if we select country and territory, we can see most of our visitors excuse me, on this website are from the United Kingdom, then Brazil, clearly because of the football, I don't know why, and then we have the USA. We can even drill down to a city level and see where people are from. I don't know where that is, but I'm guessing it might be in Brazil. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think that's probably all we've got time for today. So thanks to everyone for joining us for this webinar. I hope you found it useful. For any of you that have asked questions that we haven't actually been able to get to, what we'll do is we'll come back to you personally after the event. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Thank you to you, Doug, and we will see you soon.
Thank you, Ian.